Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about Miles Johns versus Cody Gibson. Miles Johns is stepping up on very short notice, replacing Davey Grant, and Cody Gibson, who's on a full camp, made his return to the UFC in his last fight. Well, really on the Ultimate Fighter, I should say. But his last fight was in the finale, in the finals, where he lost one of the best fights of the year to Brad Katona. Really razor thin fight, incredibly fun fight, and a great return for Cody Gibson. My pick for this fight, Cody Gibson. I've got winning by decision, but my heart isn't into it at all, and I'll explain why here and now. Miles Johns, despite taking the fight on short notice, I've always liked his cardio. I thought he looked good down the stretch in all but one fight, and that was to John Castaneda, where he was choked out in round three. He was roughed up first and then choked out. But he's the guy that's got two knockouts in the UFC himself, Kevin Natividad, Anderson Dos Santos. And of course, in his last fight, he looked great against Dan Argueta, even though the fight was overturned due to whatever the fuck, nothing serious. But I expected Dan to win that fight. And Dan brought that pressure that I expected from him, but Miles Johns handled the pressure very well. Excellent striking off the back foot, really sharp, powerful counter strikes, hooks, and also his wrestling was there for him in that fight as well against the other wrestler. And that's something that Miles Johns could seriously use here against Cody Gibson. If he's able to take him to the ground, I think his chances of winning go up astronomically. On the feet, he could win. It would have to be a points battle, I think. He'd have to win by decision because Cody's never been knocked out, even though he's been hurt a few times. But he's never been knocked out. Still, I think the hardest punch in this matchup belongs to Miles Johns. So if anybody's going to one shot the other, it's going to be Miles knocking him out. But Cody Gibson, I think, despite the intangibles, he's the better striker. Technically, he's better. And he brings a serious pressure in your face. And of course, he's got 3 inches of height and 5 inches of reach in this matchup. So I expect him to have some advantages striking on the outside, although he's got to control the outside because, again, he's going to be moving forward and he's got to watch those counters coming from Miles Johns, who again is very comfortable on the back foot. But I look to the way they've lost. Cody Gibson, he's got 9 losses, and 5 of them are by decision. All 4 finish losses are by submission. I think one's an armbar, but the rest are all guillotines, and every one of them is deep into the fight, rounds 2 or 3, and to some really good fighters too. Manny Gambarian, who's got one of the best guillotines ever. Guy's built like a fucking tank. Ulysses Gomez, former UFC fighter, and he got him out of there in round 3. He was choked out the last time by this guy, Adrian Diaz, I think his name is. Guy was the champion up in featherweight, LFA champion, and Cody moved up, and the guy was too much for him. Hurt him a little bit in the fight, but ended up choking him out with a guillotine in round 3. I don't think that's a path to victory for Miles Johns, even though he's got 2 submissions, and the last of which came in the LFA over this guy Eric. He got him with a guillotine deep into round 2. But I still don't think that's going to be his next submission victory in the UFC over Cody Gibson. I think Miles Johns wins this fight by decision if he wins. And I'll wait to see the props. Maybe there'll be value on that because I think would be his path to victory. For Cody Gibson, him as well. I think the path to victory is decision, even though Miles Johns has been finished in his 2 losses. He was knocked out by Mario Batista with a flying knee, fucking killer move. And he was also submitted by John Castaneda in that one fight where his cardio didn't look up to par with the rest of his career. But I do think this would go to a decision either way. I'm picking Cody to watch those big shots and narrowly outpoint him with his forward pressure. I think he'll bring the same type of pressure Argueta did, but without the wrestling. It'll be more stalking and trying to get off on him. And Miles Johns does allow that. He does allow the forward pressure because he's comfortable that he's going to deal with it with his counter striking, and he just might. I really don't have a lot of faith in this one at all, but a slight edge to Cody Gibson, and I'll probably bet on this one going the distance. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. I forgot my fucking signature there. And check out my other